Welcome back, everybody. I'm Sean LaFlock. I'm here with Scotty Hagman. This is his Conversations, Fitness, Wellness, and Longevity. Scotty, how goes it?
It's good. Still freezing cold and raining, but
Oh,
otherwise
no. Really?
good. Yeah. It's
We're
not
dealing.
seem like spring. What do you got?
Yeah, we're dealing with the heat's a little bit back, but we're getting a little bit of a reprieve in the evening. So April isn't the worst April I've had here. So I'll take every day that it's not sweltering hot.
That's good. I guess we each have our thing.
You got that right. I mean, it comes and goes as the days go by with us both there, Scott. So I was having a conversation with someone the other day who works in some strength and conditioning with a university. And I know that when I was in school as a lacrosse player, we did body fat testing. So that was between 2004 and 2008. I think it might have been just initially when you come into your freshman year, you get body fat tested. But we did, I know we at least did it once, if not multiple times. We did just skin fold testing and have it in the computer. And then we would check our body weight every time we came in to train. So as I was having this conversation with this person, they started, we had a conversation a little bit about one of the athletes kind of freaking out a little bit about what their body fat was, and the reactions of the practitioners, like the strength and conditioning coaches, as they were taking their test, definitely influencing the athletes as well. And without getting too far into the specifics of that situation, when you hear about body fat testing in college, what kind of thoughts and concerns come up for you?
Well, I guess what are we doing with this information?
Mm-hmm.
And are we actually able to do something constructive with it? I see all kinds of potential psychological / emotional issues that are probably always there, really being dredged up, and probably helps fuel a little bit of eating disorder issues. Not in everyone, of course, but there's certainly a susceptible population. I think that a certain segment, I would say, in the athletic population, even if it seems purely for sport, is probably a higher prevalence of these issues than in the general public.
Mm-hmm. Let me give you a follow-up as well. You mentioned that there's what are they using with this? So when you've done body fat testing before, correct, Scotty? Or you at least have done skin fold testing?
Yeah, I've as a biosignature practitioner, I did body fat tests for that, and also gave a measurement. And occasionally, for the right person, we'll still do that. And then also we've done DEXA scans with a portable unit here before at times.
Under what circumstances and what occasions do you find it appropriate to use body fat testing?
When we have someone that wants to gain muscle mass.
Okay.
And occasionally, more so in that case, or sometimes when people are looking to lose body fat, but I don't even suggest it unless I kind of know how the person's wired and anymore. So an example, oddly that you mention it, because here in about an hour I actually am going to be doing a skin fold test on someone.
Okay.
It's the only person I'm currently doing it with, and it's the first person I've done it with in quite a while. But he's an intelligent guy. He's a doctor. He's trying to gain weight, and now he's trying to kind of bring some body fat down after doing a pretty good gain phase. And we're just managing the modifications in his nutrition to see if are we moving in the right direction, and
Okay.
So here's a case where I think it's appropriate and it's good information. We're certainly attempting to take action with it.
So let me ask you this: after a skin fold test is done with this particular client, what is the follow-up? You're doing it for let's call it body composition or weight gain, that kind of stuff. Once they have that information, what do you do from there to ensure you're going in the right direction?
Depends on the situation. We were looking to stabilize his weight at a certain point, which we had succeeded in doing that. So the last time we checked was 2 weeks ago. We did a modest calorie deficit, changed the training protocol just slightly for more just low intensity aerobic work to kind of add overall workload, but nothing stressful. And so now 2 weeks in, I want to see if it's had the desired effect and where we're at. So we'll fine tune it, or we'll leave it the same if it appears to be doing as expected.
And I know that there's it's impossible to control every variable, but you already mentioned two variables within this equation: the training, and then also the caloric intake. Are there any other considerations that you have that you want to try and keep in line with what we're doing?
Well, certainly, this is again somebody long ago had the discussion about lifestyle factors, sleep and such. And as a doctor, he's a little bit, he works in the ER at times, so long shifts overnight. So that doesn't set the optimal stage for great results. But
and that discussion was already
he's well aware of it. We've had that. We've done steps to mitigate it as best as we can. And I think overall, I think it's managed about the best we can do.
Yep. Would you anticipate any performance gains during this time?
I know last week, which was 1 week in, he was pretty excited because he had a fairly significant bump in strength.
Okay.
Like he had been, thought he had plateaued a little bit, and he rolled in and kind of smashed some stuff on a few lifts. So he was, it could be an initial bump of slight stress hormones from the caloric deficit allowed a little greater neural drive for that moment.
Yep.
Who knows? But anyway.
Yeah.
So far, I wouldn't expect, that we'd make massive progress over
maybe
the
not long term
of it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and the reasons why I kind of go into this is because of the intricacies and variables that are understood and managed during a skin fold and a body fat testing, let's say, right? So we already talked about lifestyle factors and sleep, which you already had a conversation with him about prior. We worked on caloric intake and probably quality of food as well.
Yeah, these are all things that have happened, quite a while in the past. I'm pretty on point.
And then
timing.
Yep, and then a particular change in training based upon the caloric deficit that you were doing. Correct?
Yeah, the actual protocol, the strength work is really unchanged. It was just the addition of some extra days of essentially walking or cycling. It's nothing even really gym based.
Okay, so what was the purpose for that?
Just slight greater energy expenditure, but a low intensity, while also doing something that hopefully stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, which would allow, because we know that it's potentially a sympathetic driver to be in.
Well, let me ask you this, Scott. There's such a big craze about HIIT training, high intensity training. Why not do high intensity intervals to make him lose the weight during that time?
Great question. Because there we're applying yet another stressor. The caloric deficit alone is a stressor. I find that just does not work well long term for hardly any. If he was 21 years old, not working the overnight shift, ton of his natural testosterone, then maybe in a very short-term phase for a short-term thing, we could do that once, but outside of that rare occasion, that's just not the sustainable approach that's gonna get you there. And he's 40, it's just not the same situation. But applying that, a strong sympathetic stress, essentially the strength work is already giving him this stimulus, and that would just be piling more of the same on.
Would you say that in your experiences with short-term weight loss where we're losing, let's say 1 to 3% of body fat within a 1 to 3 week span is detrimental or at the very least or non-beneficial to prolonged and sustained weight loss?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of pushing long phases of trying to lose weight. I like to work at like 6 weeks is probably about the most, and then at least twice as long as stabilization. It's a patient approach, but if you don't want to get the big rebound, you have to do that.
Okay, so we're talking about the 6-week weight loss challenge. Go hard, 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 hard. You lose 10, 15, 20 pounds in that 6 weeks. And then in your experience, there tends to be a rebound effect. That could be, like you said, at the minimum, you're putting on some weight back, but as a caution, it may be even that you go over where you were before because you created this external stress that has actually put your body in a more compromised state.
Puts it in a compromised state where it slows the overall metabolic function. I mean, remember that the effect of most exercise isn't to make you burn more calories. It's to training your body to do the same or more work while expending less overall energy to do said work. It's essentially what's going on over time, contrary to what people tend to think. So if you go really hard for 6 weeks, your body kind of adapts to this stimulus. It learns how to do that with less overall expenditure. And then when you stop doing that so much, everything is very shut down, and it's a perfect environment to gain everything back and then some. Plus, just psychologically, if you beat yourself to a pulp, with restricted food and under fueling, there's very few people that won't bend and break at the end of that, and then they go out and eat, whatever their go-to is, whether it's donuts or pizza or beer or whatever,
Yep.
And then boom, you're back where you started, and that's in research on weight loss. I mean, almost all diets of all stripes tend to fail in the long term because everyone overdoes it. It takes a long time to gain a lot of weight. It's going to take a long time to take it off. If you want to do it and keep it off. And it's just this is what it is. It's not sexy. It's hard to sell, but it's just the truth.
In your experience, Scott, what is in a prolonged weight loss program? Because obviously you just said that this is going to take a while to do. What are we trying to manage within those weight losses, and what variables are we trying to address that allows us to achieve that weight loss? I know that could be like literally a 3-day course in that, but if you could give me your elevator pitch when it comes to that.
Yeah. Usually getting the lifestyle factors in place first. I'm more concerned with getting some of that stuff dialed in than I am even anything to do with the food. And then I'm going to look more at like timing and quantities of food. And then movement. Are we getting in movement? I'm not talking about just a gym-based training session. We have to look at the whole macro of what the person does, and as best we can do that with that. Then we can start dialing in maybe some more specifics with the food. But it's a long-term approach. I give an example of a guy we had here until he moved in the last couple of years. And he came in, was clearly an office worker, fair amount of weight to lose, like 60 pounds maybe, 50, 60. Didn't look athletic at all, but took a very patient approach. He actually extended his cuts a little longer than most can get away with at like 2 months, and then 4 months stabilization. So very, very patiently, I mean, he would do his 2 months, drop weight, stabilize for 4 months, twice as long, repeat. And over 3 rounds of that, which now is a year and a half, he made shocking changes. Now he continued training and improving through all phases of this. And, by the time he moved, he was, really pretty lean. Like, it was hard to tell he'd ever been overweight, and he looked like an athlete, and he could, do a lot of things. But, there's no rebound at any of the phases.
How many pounds are we looking like he lost in that year and a half period there, Scott?
I think it was about 50 pounds.
No shit, 50.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, I think just hearing that, it's when people say, okay, I need to lose 15 to 20 pounds, they want to do that in the flip of their phone. You know what I mean? But if you told them, okay, it's going to take you about 6 to 8 months to lose those, 15 to 20 pounds, they're going to, look at you like you have three heads, because nothing should take that long, right? But I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it took you a while to put on that weight. It's going to take you a while healthfully to get that off. And I think that's the key word, is healthfully or sustainably.
Yeah.
Sustainably, yeah. I started exploring more of this in terms of the mechanisms that we create that end up jacking our system up, that prevents us from having weight loss. But in your experience, when you have people, because you probably have people on both sides of the spectrum, of people who are just trying to lose weight and the stubborn losers, so to speak, what are the factors that are involved when you have the stubborn loser? So you have that person who's just been, I do the 3 to 4 or 3 to 5 CrossFit classes a week. I'm eating about 1,000 calories. I'm doing pre-workouts. I take an extra class here and there. What are the factors involved there that are preventing that person from losing that weight?
Yeah, well, that person there sounds like a ball of sympathetic drive.
Okay. And why is
obviously way overdoing for and underfueling, and their metabolic rate, everything, thyroid function, at least at the tissue level, is going to be about nilch. And from all that, they're going to have bad digestion, bad nutrient absorption, probably don't sleep too well, have this train wreck of things, estrogen dominant, probably poor detoxifier. Gut health isn't good. So you have all these factors that are kind of sitting in there, and it's tough. Can't sugarcoat it. It's a lot of stuff to deal with fixing, and usually it comes wrapped in with some psychological stuff that helps drive that as well. And it's tough.
Yeah, it's almost better to have the person who's never done anything before.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, because at least you come in with a clean slate and stuff kind of works a little bit. Yeah. It's a little bit like in strength training, right? You get people, maybe we all did this. I sure did in my self-trained early days. I thought, I'm a pretty fit guy. I'm going to look up the advanced protocols. I think I should do those, get better results. And because I'm fit, I think I can do it, right? So we do all this stuff. We do cluster training and German volume training and all this stuff before we really earn the right to do it. Well, A, it doesn't give us that good of results because our bodies aren't ready for that kind of load. And then B, if you do stick with the training for years and get to the point you get to advance, now you've kind of blown your load on that stuff, so to speak. It's gonna have much less impact now for you because you exposed yourself to it when you shouldn't have. Yeah. So it's like the person that's tried every diet and fast and high intensity protocol. I was literally talking to a new gym member this morning, and she was, we were kind of going through this. She kind of got it already, thankfully, but she was talking about how, the first time I did Whole30, I lost X amount of weight, and but then, afterwards, this all happened. It came back. I tried it again, and nothing really happened. I was like, I see it happens every damn time, pretty much, right? And you've kind of exhausted your options there, and you're really only left with, a slow, patient approach.
Yeah, I think correct me if I'm wrong here, and obviously we can discuss this a little further, but in terms of the first thing that you mentioned was sympathetic drive. This person is constantly in a fight-or-flight state, right?
Exactly.
So we're looking at a person who is not using, let's say, more parasympathetic mechanisms of sustained metabolic function. They are in a fight or flight state, which means they're probably using their adrenals more.
Yeah.
So they're pumping out a lot of norepinephrine and a lot of cortisol.
Yeah. Yeah, because in that state, doing that much activity, that underfed, thyroid function goes down. So you're forced to compensate by using adrenaline and cortisol to get done what you would normally achieve through more of a natural metabolic process.
Okay, so bringing
thyroid.
Yes. Okay, so when we have that overworked person who is overweight person who is overworked, we're probably seeing somebody who has a severely downregulated thyroid. And if they had blood work done, and this is something that I obviously know, they would have, higher TSH levels and just low T4, T3 stuff.
Possibly. There's a lot of avenues that can take, and the blood tests aren't always accurate because you can have thyroid hormone, but are the cells actually able to use it properly?
Yep. So again, it's another tool and something you also use to track before and afters.
Yeah. Yep.
So
it's certainly something you'd probably want to check out.
Yeah. Again, we're talking to a person who is ready to go down the rabbit hole, but obviously let's take a step back and let's take a look at the person who's looking to get fit. I've tried this, that, the other thing, and I'm looking for the answers. That kind of person. For that person, it's more of like, okay, we got to go all the way back down out the rabbit hole first, and get you in a non-stressed state, so that your body can actually adapt to something. Because right now you're so, sapped of thyroid function, of probably sex hormone function, that you live primarily off of stress, cortisol, adrenaline. So if you're not drinking caffeine, working out, or stressing yourself out, you don't feel right, and B, you're psychologically attached to those feelings, because that's basically all that's keeping you alive.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, and body loves to store things in that state too.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not that we don't want it to, we don't want that to happen. But if you're saying we're in a stressful situation, the body's going to plan accordingly and says, okay, I need to hold on to every calorie that I take in, because I don't know what's going to happen in this stressful situation. The lion might be coming to attack us. We might be under famine in 3 weeks, whatever. So the mechanisms that we've had for, 1,000,000+ years are now, kind of hijacked because of our constantly stressful lives that we live.
Yeah, totally. And the thing is, a lot of people have no idea. I mean, you slowly acclimate to your normal, right? And normal is like stress to the max. It's only when it tips even greater that people even recognize it sometimes. They see that a lot. But kind of, wrapping back around to where this all started with body fat testing.
Yes.
It's having done it for quite a few years, there's so many little factors that can vary. I won't test someone if they've flown on a plane within 2 days, because you can absolutely have numerous millimeter increase from that. Obviously when around a cycle you're testing someone, the water retention there. But it is interesting to see the impact of some of those things when you measure regularly. And which some of the coaches here, we used to measure ourselves weekly just out of curiosity, but you could see the effect of various things.
Yeah, you can get let's say very small windows of like, okay, what did that do? But in the grand scheme of things, doing let's say 3 or 4 years of body fat testing gives you a lot more information than looking, it's like the idea between the difference of climate versus weather. The weather is what happens on that day. Climate is what's overall trending. So if your body fat is overall trending like that, that's much more significant in terms of the body fat testing than just these, okay, well, you put on 2% body fat in the last 3 weeks. Like, all right, let's just take a look at some of the factors that might have caused that. But we're not going to freak out because we can't think of every factor and how much that factor is going to influence your body fat anyway.
Right.
So we can be just spinning, our heads are just spinning, trying to figure all this stuff out. And in fact, this might actually be causing more stress in the process.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, if someone, understands the variances and that, again, it's like you said, that's a great analogy, climate and weather, right? There's days that it's actually really hot here, but that's not the normal climate, so seeing outliers and things like that. If you have numerous snapshots, all the assessments, and we've spoken various assessments before, this is just kind of another potential tool in the toolbox, not applicable, I think, in a lot of cases, but the same thing, just like, heart rate variability, right? I mean, it's a lot of things can affect it, and it's the general trend you're looking for the most part, because lots of things can change that day to day, hour to hour.
What do you think the psychological connection is for people that want to know their body fat? Is it just like the scale?
I think it's just like a scale. I think it's probably people that like numbers a lot, and it's a scale isn't good enough. Now I have this number, and of course there's people tend to shoot for unrealistically low numbers.
Yep, and I think that people putting the outliers on the pedestals as a source of comparison kind of causes that. You look at world-class athletes, Sports Illustrated Bodies issue. And you look at these guys and gals and you go, oh my God, like that's how I should look like. And then you're like, all right, well, let's take a look at what that actually is. One, it's professional photography. Two, they probably prepared for that photo shoot. And three, they're most likely genetic freaks.
Right, exactly.
And that's not talking about Photoshop and lighting and all the other things. So,
all the other tricks,
It's almost like we need more people to stand up and be known of the people who do it a more correct way, in my opinion. If you are looking to do that, like obviously, not everybody should be losing weight. Like, you know what? Like, look at CrossFitters nowadays. Like, I think, especially on the female side of things, though it is prevalent on the male side, it's one thing to be a great CrossFitter. It's another thing to have abs and your butt out on your Instagram photos.
Right.
So you might be a super, super high-level CrossFitter, not getting any attention, but as soon as you post a picture of you taking a picture of your ab, hey, got the abs now, and all these other things, I think that creates such a different culture around body composition in general, especially when we're talking about performance. Because I don't think, and I think you agree, that those two things do not go hand in hand.
No. Yeah. And yeah, totally true. I have to actually wrap now. My client is here.
All right, Scotty. Well, I thought that was a good conversation that we might have to pick up next time.
Yeah, I think we can add a little more on there, actually.
Yeah.
I'd still like to hear a little bit more about what goes on in the down at the
university down here,
S&C level, with the testing.
Perfect. Okay, cool. Well, I'm Sean LaFlock. You can get me at Sean at CrossFitDarbyBeach.com.
I'm Scott Agnes. You can get me at Scott at CrossFitPortland.com.
Until next time, Scotty, take care.
Take care.
Later.